The ship was falling apart around him. Captain Park Jun-ho held tight to the control panel as another explosion shook the vessel. Red lights flashed everywhere. Alarms screamed in his ears. Through the cracked window of the bridge, he could see the enemy ships surrounding them like wolves around wounded prey. "Captain, we've lost the rear engines," said Lieutenant Kim Yuna, her voice steady even as smoke filled the air. "We cannot escape." Jun-ho looked at his crew. 15 men and women who had trusted him with their lives. They had been on a simple mission to deliver medical supplies to a human colony on the edge of known space. Nobody told them the Velari Empire had claimed that territory. Nobody warned them that crossing into Velari space meant death. "How many escape pods do we have?" Jun-ho asked. 12, sir. "But the Velari will shoot them down." Jun-ho closed his eyes. He thought about his mother back on Earth, how she had cried when he joined the Space Corps. He thought about his younger sister Minji, who always said he was too brave for his own good. Maybe she was right. "No," he said quietly. "They will not shoot down the pods." "Sir?" Jun-ho stood up straight. He was not a tall man, but in that moment, he seemed to fill the entire bridge with his presence. "I will surrender myself to them. I am the captain. They will want me for questioning. While they take me, you will launch the pods and scatter in different directions. They cannot chase all of you." "Captain, you cannot do this," Yuna said. Her eyes were wet with tears she refused to let fall. "The Velari do not take prisoners. They will kill you." "Maybe," Jun-ho said. "But if I do nothing, they will kill all of us. This way, at least you have a chance." He did not wait for more arguments. He walked to the communication panel and opened a channel to the Velari flagship. "This is Captain Park Jun-ho of the Earth vessel Hope's Light. I am surrendering myself to you. In exchange, I ask that you let my crew leave in escape pods. They are not soldiers. They are only delivering medicine to sick people." The silence that followed lasted forever. Then a voice came through the speakers. It was cold and musical at the same time, like ice singing in the wind. "Human captain, you offer yourself for your crew. This is unexpected. Very well. You will come to us alone. Your crew may leave. If any of them try to fight or run to the colony, we will destroy them." "Understood," Jun-ho said. He turned off the communication and looked at his crew one last time. "Go, now. Do not look back." "Sir," Yuna started. "That is an order, Lieutenant." She saluted him, her hand shaking. One by one, the others did the same. Then they ran to the escape pods. Jun-ho watched them go. When the last pod launched, he felt something strange. Not fear, peace. He took a small shuttle and flew toward the Velari flagship. It was massive, bigger than anything humans had ever built. The hull was black and purple, covered in strange patterns that seemed to move and shift. As his shuttle entered the landing bay, Jun-ho saw hundreds of Velari soldiers waiting for him. They were tall, almost 7 feet, with silver skin that glowed softly in the dim light. Their eyes were large and completely black, like pools of darkness. They had no hair, but elegant ridges ran along their skulls. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Junho landed his shuttle and stepped out with his hands raised. Immediately, the soldiers grabbed him. They were strong, much stronger than humans. They put heavy chains on his wrists and ankles. They took his uniform jacket, leaving him in just his simple black undershirt. "Walk," one of them commanded. They led him through endless corridors. The ship was like a maze, all dark metal and glowing lights. Other Velari stopped to stare at him. Some looked curious. Most looked disgusted. To them, humans were nothing but insects, small, weak, primitive creatures who had no right to exist among the stars. Finally, they reached a massive door. It opened slowly, revealing the largest room Junho had ever seen. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness. The walls were covered in tapestries showing Valari history, their conquests, their victories, their glory. And at the far end, on a throne made of what looked like crystal and bone, sat the Queen. Queen Seolha.Junho had heard stories about her. Every human had. She was the one who led the Valari armies across the galaxy. She was the one who destroyed the Morak Empire in a single decade. She was the one whose name made even the bravest warriors tremble. But the stories did not prepare him for the real thing. She was taller than the other Valari, maybe 8 feet. Her silver skin was darker, almost metallic. She wore robes of deep purple and black, and a crown of twisted metal sat on her head. Her eyes were different too, not completely black, but with small points of blue light in the center, like distant stars. She was ancient. Junho could feel it. Not old in the way of wrinkles and weakness, but old in the way of mountains and oceans. She had lived for centuries, maybe longer. The guards pushed Junho forward. He stumbled, but did not fall. He would not give them that satisfaction. Kneel, a guard commanded. Junho did not kneel. The guard hit him in the back of the legs, forcing him down. Pain shot through his body, but he did not cry out. He looked up at the Queen, meeting her strange eyes. For a long moment, she simply stared at him. Her face showed nothing, no anger, no curiosity, no emotion at all. "Leave us," she said finally. The guards looked at each other, confused. "My Queen, he is dangerous. He is a human in chains. I have killed 10,000 warriors with my bare hands." "Leave us." The guards bowed and left. The massive door closed behind them. Now it was just Junho and the Queen, alone in that endless throne room. She stood up and walked toward him. Her movements were smooth, like water flowing. She circled him slowly, studying him from every angle. "You surrendered yourself for your crew," she said. Her voice was softer now, almost gentle. "Why?" "Because they are my responsibility," Junho answered. "A captain protects his people, even if it means death. Especially then." She stopped in front of him. This close, he could see small details, the faint lines on her face, the way her skin seemed to pulse with inner light, the strange sadness in her star-filled eyes. "You are not afraid," she observed. "I am terrified," Junho admitted. "But fear does not change what is right." Something flickered across her face. Surprise? Respect? He could not tell. "Humans," she said slowly. "Your species is young. You have been traveling between stars for only 200 years. We have been here for 20,000. We have seen empires rise and fall. We have watched countless species burn themselves to nothing. And yet," she leaned closer, "and yet in all that time, I have never met a creature quite like you." She straightened up and walked back to her throne. "I should execute you. That is our law. Any alien who enters Valari space without permission must die. It is simple, clean." Junho said nothing. What could he say? "But I find myself curious," the Queen continued. "Your species confuses me. You are weak, your body's fragile, your lifespan's pathetically short. Yet you spread across the galaxy like fire. You build, you create, you never stop reaching for more. Why? What drives you?" "Hope," Junho said. "Hope? We hope that tomorrow will be better than today. We hope that our children will have a better life than we did. We hope that somewhere out there, among all those stars, we will find something wonderful." The Queen was silent for a long time. "Hope," she repeated, as if tasting the word. "We Valari do not have this word in our language. We have duty. We have honor. We have purpose. But not hope." She made a gesture with her hand, and a door in the side of the wall opened. A servant appeared smaller than the warriors, with paler skin. "Take this human to the eastern chambers," the queen ordered. "See that he is fed and given clean clothes. He will serve as my translator." The servant bowed. Junho stared at the queen in shock. I do not understand," he said. "Clearly. But you will." She sat back on her throne. "I have decided not to kill you, human. Not yet. You interest me. I have not been interested in anything for a very long time." The servant approached Junho and helped him to his feet. The chains were removed from his ankles, but left on his wrists. "My queen," Junho said carefully. Your crew escaped safely. I kept my word. The Valari always keep their word." Relief flooded through him. Whatever happened to him now, at least Yuna and the others were safe. As the servant led him away, he looked back at the queen one last time. She was watching him with those strange star-filled eyes. "What is your name, human?" She called out. "Park Junho." "Park Junho," she repeated. "Remember this day, Park Junho. It is the day your old life ended. What comes next? We shall see." The door closed behind him, and Junho was led into the depths of the Valari flagship, into a future he could not imagine, into a destiny that would change the fate of two species forever. He did not know it yet, but his greatest journey was just beginning. 3 weeks passed on the Valari flagship. Junho learned quickly that life among the Valari was nothing like he expected. They were not mindless conquerors. They had art, music, philosophy. They debated politics and argued about ethics. They laughed and mourned and loved. In many ways, they were not so different from humans, but in other ways, they were completely alien. The servant who had taken him from the throne room was named Hannah. She was what the Valari called a lesser-born, a member of the working class, below the warriors and nobles, but above the slaves. She was kind to Junho in small ways, bringing him extra food when no one was watching, teaching him Valari words when she had time. "Why are you helping me?" Junho asked her one evening. Hannah looked at him with her large dark eyes. "Because you remind me of my brother. He died in the wars. He was kind too. Kindness is rare among the Valari. We are taught that it is weakness. Is it? I do not think so. But I am only a servant. What do I know?" Junho's job as translator was strange. The Valari had machines that could translate languages automatically, but the queen said machines missed the subtle meanings, the emotions behind words. She wanted a living translator, someone who could understand both sides. At first, Junho only translated simple things, trade agreements, diplomatic messages, reports from distant colonies. But slowly, he was brought closer to the queen's inner circle. He attended meetings with her generals. He stood beside her throne when ambassadors from other species came to beg for mercy. He watched how she ruled. Queen Sioho was hard. She made decisions that cost thousands of lives without blinking. She sent armies to crush rebellions and ordered executions for traitors. But she was also fair. She listened to complaints from common Valari. She punished nobles who abused their power. She remembered the names of soldiers who served her well. She was, Junho realized, a leader carrying an impossible weight. One night, she summoned him to her private chambers. Junho had never been there before. The room was smaller than he expected, almost simple. There were books everywhere, actual paper books, not digital files. Maps covered the walls, showing every corner of Valari space. A large window looked out at the stars. The queen stood by the window, her back to him. She was not wearing her crown or her formal robes. Instead, she wore simple clothes, dark and plain. She looked smaller somehow, more tired. "Sit," she said without turning around. Junho sat in a chair near the window. He waited. "Do you know how old I am, Park Junho?" She asked. No, my queen. I have lived for 1,047 years. I have ruled the Valari Empire for 600 of those years. I have conquered more worlds than you can count. I have killed more enemies than there are stars in the sky. She turned to face him. Her star-filled eyes were dim tonight, the blue lights barely visible, and I am tired. Junho did not know what to say. He had never seen her like this, vulnerable, exhausted, almost human. You have been watching me, she continued. You think I do not notice, but I do. You watch how I rule. You watch how I treat my people. You are trying to understand me. Yes, Junho admitted. And what have you concluded? He thought carefully before answering. I think you are trying to hold something together that is falling apart. I think you carry burdens that no one else can see. And I think you are lonely. The queen laughed. It was a bitter sound, sharp and sad. Lonely. Yes, that is a good word for it. She walked to a table and poured 2 glasses of dark liquid. She handed one to Junho. Drink. It will not kill you, probably. Junho drank. The liquid was sweet and burned slightly going down. It made his head feel light. I am going to tell you something, the queen said. Something that I have never told anyone. Not my generals. Not my advisors. Not even my own children. Why me? Because you are human. Because you will probably die soon anyway. Because I am tired of carrying this alone. She sat down across from him. And because I think you might actually understand. She was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. My species is dying. Junho stared at her. What? The Valari? All of us, we are dying. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. Within 3 generations, there will be no more Valari children born. Within 5 generations, our entire species will be extinct. How is that possible? You have billions of people. You rule an empire built on a lie. The queen stood up and walked back to the window. 60 years ago, our scientists discovered something terrible. A genetic plague buried deep in our DNA. It has been there for centuries, slowly spreading, slowly growing. We did not notice because the effects were subtle at first. Fewer children born, more stillbirths, more couples unable to conceive. She pressed her hand against the window. Our scientists tried everything. Every treatment, every cure they could imagine. Nothing worked. The plague is too deep, too complicated. It is woven into the very fabric of our being. Does anyone else know? A handful of scientists. All dead now. I made sure of it. Her voice was cold. If our enemies discovered this weakness, they would strike. The species we have conquered would rise up. The empires we have defeated would return. The Valari would be destroyed in fire and blood long before the plague could finish us. Junho felt the weight of what she was telling him. This was not just a secret. This was the greatest secret in the galaxy. A piece of information that could reshape everything. Why are you telling me this? He asked. The queen turned to face him. Her eyes were bright now, filled with something Junho had never seen in her before. Desperation. Because I am running out of options. I have tried everything. Every Valari scientist, every piece of technology, every ancient remedy. Nothing works. We are stuck, trapped by our own biology. She walked toward him slowly. But you humans, you are different. Your medicine, your science, it works differently than ours. You approach problems in ways we never considered. Your species has solved puzzles that stumped the Valari for centuries. You want me to help find a cure? I want you to give me hope. She laughed again, but this time it was softer. You were right, you know. That first day, hope is what drives humanity. And the Valari have none. She sat down across from him again. This close, Junho could see the lines on her face more clearly. Not wrinkles of age, but marks of stress, of centuries of ruling, of impossible choices. "I have watched you these past weeks," she said. "You are intelligent. You think differently than the Valari. You see angles we miss. And more importantly, you are kind. Kindness does not cure plagues. No, but it might give me the courage to keep trying." She reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cool, smooth, like polished metal. "I am alone, Park Junho. I have been alone for 600 years. I cannot trust my generals. They would use this information to seize power. I cannot trust my advisors. They would panic and make everything worse. I cannot trust my children. They are too young, too naive to carry this burden. But you can trust me? I can trust that you have no reason to betray me. You are human. What happens to the Valari means nothing to you. You could escape, sell this information to our enemies, become wealthy beyond measure. Or you could stay silent and help me save my people." She released his hand and stood up. "The choice is yours. I will not force you. I will not threaten you. I am simply asking." Junho sat in silence, his mind racing. She was right. This information was incredibly valuable. If he escaped and told the right people, he could bring down the entire Valari Empire. Humanity would be free of their greatest threat. He would be a hero, but as he looked at the Queen, he did not see a tyrant. He saw a woman carrying an impossible burden. He saw a leader trying desperately to save her people. He saw someone who, in this moment of vulnerability, had chosen to trust him. "I have a condition," he said. "Name it. If I help you, if I stay and work on this, I want you to promise me something." "What?" "When this is over, one way or another, you will let me go home. I want to see my mother again. I want to see my sister. I want to walk on Earth one more time." The Queen studied him. "That is all you ask? Not wealth? Not power? Just home?" Yes, something changed in her expression. The hardness softened. The distance closed. For the first time, she looked at him not as a prisoner or a tool, but as an equal. "I promise," she said. "On my honor as Queen of the Valari, I promise that if you help me, I will see you safely return to Earth." She extended her hand. Junho stood and took it. "Then we have an agreement," he said. "We have an agreement." They shook hands, the ancient human gesture of trust, of partnership, of hope. Junho did not know if he could save the Valari. He did not know if a cure even existed. But he knew that he had to try, because that was what humans did. They hoped. They tried. They reached for the impossible. And sometimes, against all odds, they succeeded. "Where do we start?" he asked. The Queen smiled. It was the first real smile he had ever seen on her face. "We start with the archives. There are records there that no outsider has ever seen. Thousands of years of Valari history, science, medicine. If there is an answer, it will be hidden somewhere in those records. And if there is no answer, then we will create one." She walked to the door and opened it. "Come, we have much work to do and very little time to do it." Junho followed her out of the chamber, into the dark corridors of the flagship, into a quest that would test everything he believed about himself, about humanity, and about what it meant to truly trust someone. The deadliest secret archives were buried deep beneath the palace. Junho followed the Queen through endless stairs and corridors, down into the heart of the Valari homeworld. They had traveled from the flagship to this planet 3 days ago. The Queen told everyone it was for routine government business. No one suspected the truth. "How deep does this go?" Junho asked as they descended another staircase. 7 levels below the surface. The oldest records are at the bottom. No one has read them in centuries. The queen walked ahead, her footsteps echoing in the darkness. Not even I have been down here more than a few times. They finally reached a massive door, ancient and covered in strange symbols. The queen pressed her hand against a panel, and the door slowly opened with a grinding sound. Dust filled the air. Lights flickered on, revealing a chamber so vast that Junho could not see the far walls. Shelves stretched in every direction, filled with books, scrolls, crystal data storage devices, and objects Junho did not recognize. The air smelled old, like forgotten memories. "This is the memory of my people," the queen said softly. 20,000 years of knowledge. Every discovery, every failure, every secret. They walked between the shelves. Junho ran his fingers along the spines of ancient books. The symbols were unreadable, written in forms of Valari that had been dead for millennia. "I cannot read most of this," he admitted. "I can. But I need your mind, not your reading ability. I will translate what we find. You will help me understand it differently." They worked through the night. The queen pulled down old medical texts, scientific journals, research reports. She read them aloud while Junho listened, asking questions, looking for patterns she might have missed. Most of it was useless old theories that led nowhere. Experiments that failed, ideas that were abandoned. But slowly, they began to find clues. "This is interesting," the queen said on the third night. She held an ancient scroll, yellowed with age. A scientist named Tarek. He lived 8,000 years ago. He studied genetic diseases. What did he discover? He believed that some diseases could not be cured from within. The body itself was the problem. The only solution was to introduce something from outside foreign genetic material that could repair the damage. Junho leaned forward. "Gene therapy? Humans use something similar. Explain." "We take healthy genetic material and introduce it into sick cells. The healthy genes replace the damaged ones. It does not always work, but when it does, it can cure diseases that were once impossible to treat." The queen's eyes widened. Tarek proposed something similar, but his research was abandoned. The Valari Council at the time declared it heresy. Mixing Valari genetics with anything foreign was considered an abomination. Is it still considered that? The queen was silent for a long moment. Officially, yes. The law is clear: Valari blood must remain pure. It has been that way for 20,000 years. And unofficially? She set down the scroll and looked at him. "Unofficially, I am the queen. I make the laws. If I decide to change them, they change." They continued searching. More clues emerged. Other scientists throughout Valari history had proposed similar ideas, and all had been silenced. The pattern was clear. The solution might exist. But it had been suppressed by tradition and fear. On the fifth night, Junho made a discovery. He was looking through a pile of personal journals, private writings that were never meant to be seen. One of them belonged to a scientist named Yian, who had lived 300 years ago. "Look at this," he said. Handing the journal to the queen, she read it, her expression changing from curiosity to shock. "This is impossible," she whispered. "What does it say?" Yian was researching the plague. She found it 300 years ago. She traced its origin, its spread, its effects. And she found something else. The queen looked up at Junho. She found evidence that the plague was not natural. It was created. Created? By whom? She does not know. The evidence was incomplete. But she believed that someone, thousands of years ago, deliberately engineered this plague and released it into the Valari population. Junho felt cold. Why would anyone do that? Power, control, revenge. There are many reasons to destroy a species slowly. The queen set down the journal. What matters is that if the plague was created, it can be uncreated. Someone designed it, which means someone can undesign it. They worked with new energy after that. If the plague was artificial, there had to be traces, weaknesses in its design, patterns that could be exploited. They searched for any reference to genetic engineering in ancient Valari history. And they found it deep in the oldest section of the archive. Hidden behind a false wall was a chamber that had not been opened in 10,000 years. Inside were records of a secret project, a group of scientists who had worked in the shadows, creating biological weapons. The plague was one of their creations. They made it to use against enemies, the Queen said, reading the ancient reports. A weapon that would destroy a species slowly, from within, without any sign of attack. The perfect weapon. But it was released on your own people. Yes, there's no record of how or why. Perhaps an accident. Perhaps betrayal. She threw the reports across the room in anger. It does not matter. What matters is that they left notes, designs, details of how the plague works. Can we use that to create a cure? Perhaps. She gathered herself, controlling her anger. The design shows weaknesses, points where the plague could be attacked. But to do that, we would need to introduce foreign genetic material. Valari biology alone cannot produce what we need. Junho understood what she was saying. You need human DNA. Yes. The weight of that word hung in the air between them. Human DNA inside Valari bodies. It was not just against Valari law, it was unthinkable. It would change everything the Valari believed about themselves. My people would never accept it, the Queen said quietly. They would rather die than become mixed, would they? Or is that what they have been taught to believe? The Queen stared at him. What do you mean? You said the law against mixing blood has existed for 20,000 years. But you also said the plague was created around the same time. What if they are connected? What if the law was created specifically to prevent anyone from finding the cure? The Queen sat down heavily. She looked older suddenly, the weight of centuries pressing down on her. You are suggesting that my entire civilization was built on a lie. That everything we believe about purity, about separation, about the superiority of Valari blood, it was all designed to keep us trapped. I am suggesting that someone wanted you to die, and they made sure you would never find a way to survive. Silence filled the chamber. Junho watched the Queen, waiting to see how she would react. She could dismiss his theory. She could cling to tradition. She could choose death over change. Instead, she laughed. It started small, just a soft chuckle. Then it grew louder, filling the ancient chamber with a sound that had probably never been heard there before. The Queen laughed until tears ran down her silver cheeks. 20,000 years, she gasped between laughs. 20,000 years of pride, of believing we were better than everyone else, of looking down on other species as inferior. And the whole time, we were just prisoners of our own arrogance. She wiped her eyes and looked at Junho. You humans have a word for this, do you not? When something is funny and sad at the same time. Irony, yes. She stood up and walked to him. Park Junho, you have given me two gifts today. First, you have given me hope, a real hope, not just empty wishing. Second, you have shown me the truth about my own people. What will you do? What I must. Her eyes hardened with determination. I will change the law. I will tell my people the truth. And I will save them, even if they hate me for it. They might not hate you. They might be grateful. Perhaps. But it does not matter either way. A leader does not do what is popular. A leader does what is necessary. She extended her hand. Will you help me, Park Junho? Will you stay and help me create this cure? Junho thought about everything that had happened. He thought about his capture, his time as a prisoner, the Queen's secret. He thought about what it would mean A human helping to save an alien species that had been humanity's enemy for generations. He thought about escape. The Queen trusted him now. He could probably find a way to leave, to return to human space, to share everything he had learned. The information he carried could bring down the Valari Empire. It could make humanity safe forever. But as he looked at the Queen, he realized something. She was not his enemy. She was not a monster. She was a leader trying to save her people, just like any human leader would. She had trusted him with the most dangerous secret in the galaxy. She had shown him vulnerability that no Valari had ever shown a human. How could he betray that? "Yes," he said, taking her hand. "I will help you." The Queen smiled a real smile, warm and full of hope. "Then let us begin. We have much work to do, and I suspect our time is shorter than we think." They left the ancient archives together, carrying with them the secrets of 10,000 years. Above them, the Valari homeworld continued its daily routine, unaware that its entire future was about to change. A human and a queen, working together to save a dying species. It was impossible. It was insane. It was exactly the kind of thing that humans did, and somehow, Junho knew they were going to succeed. The laboratory was hidden in a mountain, far from the capital city. The Queen had built it in secret, telling her advisors it was a military research facility. Only she and Junho knew its true purpose. Only they knew that inside these walls, the future of the Valari species was being decided. Junho stood before a massive screen, studying the genetic data that scrolled across it. 3 months had passed since they discovered the truth in the archives. 3 months of endless work, failed experiments, and sleepless nights. "The latest simulation failed," he said as the Queen entered the room. "The human DNA was rejected again. The Valari immune system treats it as an invader." The Queen walked to the screen and studied the results. She looked tired, more tired than Junho had ever seen her. Even for a species that lived for centuries, 3 months without proper rest took its toll. "We are missing something," she said. "Some piece of the puzzle that we cannot see. Maybe we need more help." Other scientists, "No." Her voice was firm. "The more people who know, the greater the risk. I trust you because you have nothing to gain from betraying me. But my own people, they have everything to gain. Power, influence, control. Any one of them could use this information to destroy me." Junho understood her fear, but he also knew they were running out of options. They had tried everything, different combinations of DNA, different delivery methods, different approaches. Nothing worked. The Valari body simply would not accept human genetic material. "Then we need to think differently," he said. "We've been trying to force human DNA into Valari cells. Maybe that is the wrong approach. What do you suggest?" "I do not know yet. But let me think." He walked away from the screen and sat down in a corner of the lab. He closed his eyes and let his mind wander. This was something he had learned in the Space Course when logic failed. Sometimes the answer came from unexpected places. He thought about his home on Earth. He thought about his mother's garden, where she grew vegetables and fruits from seeds. He thought about how she would sometimes combine different plants, grafting one onto another to create something new. Grafting. His eyes snapped open. "What if we are thinking about this wrong?" he said, jumping to his feet. "What if we should not be forcing human DNA into Valari cells, but creating something new? Something that is neither human nor Valari, but both?" The Queen frowned. "Explain." "Humans have a technique called hybridization. We combine the genetic material of 2 different species to create offspring that have traits in both. Usually, this only works with closely related species. But with advanced genetic engineering, it might be possible to create a hybrid between humans and Valari." "A hybrid?" You mean a child that is both human and Valari? Not exactly. Not a person. A piece of genetic material. A sequence that contains elements of both species, designed specifically to bridge the gap between them. We introduce this hybrid material into Valari cells, and it acts as a translator helping the human DNA communicate with the Valari immune system. The Queen stared at him. That is insane. Yes, but it might work. She was silent for a long moment, processing what he was suggesting. It went against everything the Valari believed. It was not just mixing blood. It was creating something entirely new, something that had never existed before. If we do this, she said slowly, and it works, the cure itself would be part human. Every Valari who receives it would carry human genetic material inside them forever. Yes, my people would be changed. We would no longer be purely Valari. We would be something else. You would be alive. The Queen laughed bitterly. You make it sound simple. It is not simple. Nothing about this is simple. But you asked me for hope, and this is the best hope I can offer. A chance to survive. A chance to become something new. She walked to the window and looked out at the mountains. Snow was falling gently, covering the peaks in white. Beautiful and cold, like the Valari themselves. I have spent 600 years building an empire based on Valari superiority, she said. I have told my people that we are the greatest species in the galaxy, that our blood is sacred, that mixing with other races would destroy everything that makes us who we are. She turned to face Junho. And now you are telling me that the only way to save my people is to admit that I was wrong. That all of it was wrong. Not wrong, just incomplete. The Valari are great. Your civilization has accomplished things that humanity can only dream of. But greatness does not mean perfection. Even the greatest species can have flaws. Even the strongest can need help. You truly believe this? I believe that asking for help is not weakness. I believe that changing is not defeat. I believe that a species willing to adapt, to grow, to become something new, that species will survive. The ones who cling to the past, who refuse to change, they die. The Queen studied him for a long time. Then she nodded slowly. Very well. We will try your hybrid approach. But I need something from you. What? Your blood. Your genetic material. If we are going to create this bridge between our species, I need human DNA. Your DNA. Junho hesitated. It was one thing to suggest an idea. It was another to become part of it. If this worked, a piece of him would exist inside every Valari in the galaxy. His genetic code, mixed with theirs, for all eternity. I understand if you refuse, the Queen said. I am asking you to give a part of yourself that you can never take back. It is not a small thing. No, Junho said. It is not small, but it is right. He rolled up his sleeve. Take what you need. The Queen smiled, a warm, genuine smile that transformed her face. You are a remarkable human, Park Junho. Your species should be proud of you. My species would probably think I am insane for helping the Valari. Perhaps. But history will remember you differently. I will make sure of it. They worked through the night. The Queen extracted Junho's blood and began the delicate process of isolating his genetic material. Meanwhile, Junho programmed the genetic sequencers, creating the templates for the hybrid code they would build. It was complex work, requiring precision that humans had never achieved before. But the Valari technology was advanced, and Junho was a quick learner. Together, they made progress that would have taken human scientists years. By morning, they had a prototype. The hybrid genetic sequence floated in a containment field, glowing softly with blue light. It was neither human nor Valari. It was something new, something that had never existed in the history of the galaxy. Now we test it, the Queen said. They have Valari cell samples. taken from volunteers who thought they were participating in routine medical research. The Queen carefully introduced the hybrid sequence into one of the samples. They watched. They waited for an hour. Nothing happened. The cells continued their normal functions, ignoring the new genetic material. Then, slowly something changed. The Valari cells began to divide differently. The damaged sections of their DNA, the parts corrupted by the ancient plague, started to repair themselves. The hybrid sequence was working, acting as a bridge, allowing the healthy genetic material to replace the sick. "It is working," Junho breathed. "Not yet," the Queen said, her eyes fixed on the screen. "The immune response is coming. If the cells reject the sequence now, it will all be for nothing." They watched as the Valari immune system detected the foreign material. Defenders rushed to attack it, treating it as an enemy. This was the moment of truth, the point where all their previous attempts had failed. But this time was different. The hybrid sequence carried markers from both species. It spoke the language of both human and Valari biology. When the defenders attacked, it responded with signals that said, "I am not your enemy. I am part of you." The defenders hesitated. They examined the hybrid material, uncertain. It was foreign, but also familiar. It was threatening, but also helpful. It was not purely Valari, but it was not purely human either. One by one, the defenders withdrew. The immune system accepted the hybrid sequence as part of the body. The cure had worked. The Queen stared at the screen in disbelief. After 600 years of despair, after 3 months of exhausting work, after countless failures and setbacks, they had done it. They had found a way to save the Valari species. "We need to test it more," she said, her voice shaking. "We need to make sure it works on living subjects. We need to verify there are no side effects." "Yes," Junho agreed. "But you know what this means, do you not?" "I know." She turned to him, tears streaming down her silver cheeks. "It means my people will live? It means we are not going to die." She pulled him into an embrace, something Junho had never seen a Valari do. Her body was cool against his, her arms strong, her breath warm against his ear. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you, Park Junho. You have saved us all." Junho held her, feeling the weight of the moment. A human and a Valari queen, standing in a secret laboratory on an alien world, having just changed the course of galactic history. "We saved each other," he said. "That is what this proves. That we do not have to be enemies. That we can work together." The Queen pulled back and looked at him. Her star-filled eyes were bright with new hope. "You are right. And it is time I showed my people the same truth." "What do you mean?" "I mean it is time to stop hiding. Time to tell the Valari what we have done. Time to change everything." She straightened up, wiping the tears from her face. The vulnerable woman disappeared, replaced by the powerful queen who had ruled an empire for 6 centuries. "Come," she said. "We have an announcement to make." She walked toward the great hall of the Valari Empire was filled with more people than it had held in 1,000 years. They came from every corner of Valari, space nobles and commoners, warriors and workers, old and young. They filled the massive chamber until there was no room left to stand. They crowded the balconies and overflowed into the corridors beyond. Billions more watched through screens, broadcasting the event to every planet, every station, every ship in the Empire. The Queen had summoned them all. Junho stood in the shadows behind the throne, watching the crowd. He could feel their tension, their confusion, their fear. For weeks, rumors had spread through the Empire. Something was wrong. Something was changing. The Queen was hiding something. Now they would learn the truth. Queen Seoha walked onto the raised platform where her throne sat. She was dressed in her formal robes, her crown gleaming on her head. But she did not sit on the throne. Instead, she stood before it, facing her people directly. The hall fell silent. "My people," she began, her voice amplified to reach every corner of the chamber. "I have ruled you for 600 years. In that time, I have asked you to trust me. I have asked you to follow me into war, into darkness, into the unknown. And you have done so without question." She paused, looking out at the sea of faces. "Today, I must ask you to trust me one more time. But this time, I will not ask blindly. This time, I will tell you the truth, the whole truth, hidden for too long." A murmur ran through the crowd. The queen raised her hand, and silence returned. 60 years ago, our scientists made a terrible discovery. A genetic plague, buried in our DNA, spreading slowly, silently, invisibly. Within 3 generations, our children would stop being born. Within 5, the Valari would be extinct. The murmur became a roar. Shouts of disbelief, cries of fear, demands for explanation. The queen waited until the noise died down. "I kept this secret from you because I was afraid. Afraid that our enemies would learn of our weakness. Afraid that our own people would panic. Afraid that there was no hope." She gestured to the shadows where Junho stood. I was wrong. Junho walked forward into the light. The crowd stared at him, a human, standing in the heart of Valari power. Many of them had never seen a human in person before. To them, he was a creature from stories, a symbol of weakness and primitiveness. "This man is Park Junho, a human captain. He was captured when his ship crossed into our space. By our law, he should have been executed. Instead, I spared his life. I trusted him with our greatest secret. And he gave us something we had lost hope." She turned to face Junho, then back to her people. "Working together, we found the source of the plague. It was not natural, it was created, thousands of years ago, by our own ancestors. A weapon that was turned against us. And we found a cure." Another wave of noise, this time mixed with something new. Hope. But the cure requires something that will change us forever. It requires human genetic material. To save ourselves, we must accept something from another species into our bodies. We must become something new, not purely Valari, but something greater. This time, the roar was different. Angry voices rose above the others. Junho saw faces twisted with disgust, with fear, with hatred. This was what the queen had warned him about, the reaction of a proud species told that they must mix their sacred blood with that of insects. "You ask us to become impure," one voice screamed above the others. "I ask you to live," the queen responded, her voice cutting through the noise. "For 20,000 years, we have believed that purity is strength. We have looked down on other species as inferior. We have built our empire on the belief that Valari blood must never be mixed." She stepped forward, her eyes blazing. "And where has that belief brought us? To the edge of extinction. To a plague that our pure blood cannot cure. To death." Silence fell. The queen continued, her voice softer now. "I was like you. I believed what we were taught. I would have chosen death over impurity. But this human showed me something I had forgotten. He showed me that strength is not about purity, it is about survival. It is about adaptation. It is about having the courage to change." She walked to Junho and took his hand. The gesture shocked the crowd. Their queen, touching a human, standing beside him as an equal. "When I was dying of doubt, this man gave me hope. When I was lost in the darkness of our archives, he helped me find the light. When I was ready to give up, he stood beside me and said, 'We will find a way,' and we did." She released his hand and walked back to the front of the platform. "I am not asking you to forget who you are. I am not asking you to become human. I am asking you to become something better than either of our species has ever been. I am asking you to be the first generation of a new Valari one that has the courage to embrace change, to accept help, to hope." She raised her hand, and a holographic image appeared above her, the genetic sequence that Junho and she had created. It floated in the air, glowing with soft light. "This is the cure. It carries genetic material from both our species, working together, bridging the gap between us. It has been tested. It works. Any Valari who receives it will be cured of the plague. Their children will be born healthy. Our species will survive." She let the image fade. "The choice is yours. I will not force anyone to take the cure. But know this, if you choose purity over survival, you choose death. Not just for yourself, but for every Valari who comes after you." She sat down on her throne and waited. The hall erupted into chaos. Arguments broke out everywhere. Families divided. Friends turned against each other. The weight of 20,000 years of belief collided with the desperate will to survive. Junho watched it all from beside the throne. He had known this would be difficult. He had known that not everyone would accept a cure. But seeing it happen, seeing the Valari tear themselves apart over the choice between tradition and survival, hurt more than he expected. "They are afraid," the Queen said quietly, only loud enough for him to hear. "I know. They hate you. I know that too. Do you regret helping us?" Junho thought about the question. He thought about everything he had given up: his ship, his crew, his home. He thought about the months of work, the failures, the exhaustion. He thought about what would happen next, whether the Valari accepted the cure or not. "No," he said. "I do not regret it." "Why not?" "Because this is right. Whatever happens now, we gave him a choice. That is more than they had before." The Queen smiled sadly. "You are too good for us, Park Junho. Maybe. Or maybe you are better than you think." The debate in the hall continued for hours. Junho lost track of time, watching the arguments flow back and forth. Finally, as the artificial sun began to set outside the great windows, a single voice rose above the others. It was an old Valari, ancient even by their standards. His silver skin had faded to almost white, and he walked with a staff. But when he spoke, everyone listened. "I have lived for 2,000 years, he said. "I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched our people conquer the stars. And I have seen us make this same mistake over and over again." He turned to face the crowd. "We cling to the past because we are afraid of the future. We worship purity because we fear change. We hate other species because we do not understand them." He pointed his staff at Junho. "Look at this human. He had every reason to betray us. He could have escaped, sold our secrets, destroyed our empire. Instead, he chose to help us. He chose to save us, even though we would have killed him without a second thought." He lowered his staff and bowed his head. "If a human can show us such kindness, perhaps we have been wrong about them. Perhaps we have been wrong about everything." He walked slowly to the platform and knelt before the Queen. "I will take the cure. Let my old body be the first to carry this change. Let my long life end with hope instead of pride." The Queen rose from her throne and helped the old man to his feet. "Your courage honors us all," she said. One by one, others stepped forward. At first it was just a few: the old, the sick, those with nothing to lose. But as the night wore on, more joined them. Parents wanting their children to live. Warriors wanting their species to survive. Young Valari who had never known a galaxy without fear of extinction. By morning, more than half the Empire had chosen to take the cure. It was not everyone. Many still refused, clinging to their beliefs even in the face of death. But it was enough. The Valari would survive. The plague would be defeated. A new chapter was beginning. 1 year later, Juho stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city. Below him, Valarian humans walked the streets together. The first human embassy had opened last month. Trade agreements were being negotiated. For the first time in history, the two species were at peace. The queen joined him on the balcony. "You are leaving tomorrow," she said, double quotes. "Yes, it is time for me to go home. I will miss you." "Park Junho, you changed everything. We changed everything. Together." She smiled that warm, genuine smile that he had first seen in the hidden laboratory a year ago. "I kept my promise. A ship is waiting to take you to Earth. Your family has been notified. Your mother is very eager to see you." Junho felt tears prick his eyes. He had not cried since he was a child. But the thought of seeing his mother again, of walking on Earth again, of finally going home— "Thank you," he said. "No, thank you." The queen took his hands in hers. "You gave us hope when we had none.